it falls really under two categories. It falls under vanity and economics. And the vanity, I think, in terms of the fact that he feels entitled, having and being a member of the royal family, albeit not a working royal member, and the fact that the economic side of it, it's probably costing him around about circa £5 million a year, probably for the security detail that he needs to have privately.
Let's talk about Prince Harry, shall we? Because the Duke of Sussex, well, he's lost the High Court challenge against the government over his security. While he's in the UK, Prince Harry was contesting a decision to downgrade his security status when he stopped being a working royal. He argued he'd been treated unfairly in the changes to his police protection when he still faced significant security threats. Well, earlier on tonight, just before we came on air, I was chatting with Will Geddes, the international security specialist, and he told me what the consequences of the ruling are.
It's not really going to make a great deal of difference because currently he has a security detail that provides him with security whilst he's in the United States. And that security detail will also follow him wherever he goes in the world. Now, when he returns to the United Kingdom, he will fall within the visiting dignitaries bubble, if you like, which is often, provided for foreign heads of state who are even coming with their own security teams. It will provide a facilitation that will be extended to him by RASP, or otherwise known as the Royalty and Specialist Protection Group, which falls under Protection Command within the Metropolitan Police. Now, every visit that he makes to the United Kingdom will be inevitably assessed for what kind of risks or issues would he potentially bring with him, but also that could impact on him whilst he's in the United Kingdom. Now, in terms of his security, whilst in the embrace of his family and the royal family, he would be facilitated with security support by the Royalty and Specialist Protection teams, and therefore it would make very little difference, really, in terms of him falling entirely under their protection or visiting with his own protection detail.
So this case essentially was about how much security he gets, because when he stepped back from being a working royal and moved to Canada, then the US, he was no longer automatically provided with the same level of protection that's given to the royal family. And essentially he was assessed on a case-by-case basis. But Harry didn't want that. He wanted to keep the same level. And that's what he's lost essentially today.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, Rick. I think it falls really under two categories. It falls under vanity and economics. And the vanity, I think, in terms of the fact that he feels entitled, having and being a member of the royal family, albeit not a working royal member, and the fact that the economic side of it, it's probably costing him around about circa £5 million a year, probably for the security detail that he needs to have privately.
Wow.
But when he decided to make that move to the United States, in fact, when he did leave, he actually recruited one of his former PPOs, or personal protection officers, who were working under the auspices of RASP, to go with him. So that member of his security team would still have good links into his fellow members, or former members, if you like, within RASP. So facilitation would be made. And he would have, the same as any other visiting dignitary, a security advisor that would be appointed by RASP and the Home Office to actually guide his team, assist them, support them. And I myself, having taken many former heads of state to various parts of the world, know exactly how that works. And really, it makes no other difference than the fact that Harry is footing the bill.
Yeah, I see what you mean there. He just wanted an extended level and he's not got that. So what does £5 million actually get you when it comes to security then?
Well, hopefully it gets him a very good level of protection, which is not just on a physical sense, but also a cyber sense. And this really involves not only the protection of him and his family at their residence, but when they travel overseas, when they travel separately, protection for the children, and also an ability to be able to monitor things like social media for any types of threats that might emerge. Now, you can imagine someone like Prince Harry, like anybody who's in the public eye, who's prominent, they will draw a certain amount of attention. Now, here in the United Kingdom, the Home Office has a group that is under Protection Command within the Civil Service called RAVEC, which is the Royalty and VIP Executive Committee. Now, this is the group that will advise on security measures, not just for the royal family, but also for members of parliament. And as you know, Rick, quite recently it's been announced that 31 million odd pounds has been allocated to members of parliament who may be potentially vulnerable to risk in these imminent months leading up to a general election. So Harry would fall certainly within their purview in terms of assessing the threats that are pertinent to him.
Overall, Will, when it comes to security for royals and for senior politicians, and in many cases now, because of what's gone on in the last couple of months with the conflict in the Middle East, medium and lower ranking politicians as well, how much are security costs actually going up by? When you take inflation out of the mix, it's got to be increasing substantially, hasn't it?
It is increasing substantially, Rick. But again, we're living in pretty volatile times, as I think we can all see by not only what is covered by the media, but what we're actually seeing on the streets ourselves. I mean, when we go back to the budget of what was allocated to MPs back in 2015, it was sub £200,000. But we look at the levels of sentiment, and particularly aggrieved sentiment, behind the current conflicts between Israel and Palestine. And we look at the numbers of members of general public, members of the members of parliament who are, quite outspoken about their siding with one or the other. And as a result, and particularly those that are more leveled or, if you like, sided to Israel, they are the ones that are actually being subject to far more hate speech, far more harassment, threats, and even physical protests, as we saw with Tom Tugendhat and a pro-Palestinian demonstration that took place outside his home. So security has to be commensurate to the threats. And Rick, at the moment, and certainly in the lead up to the general election, we are a democratic country and we need to be able to facilitate the ability for democracy to be able to prevail. And sadly, in many cases, certainly at the moment, security has to provide that reassurance to members of parliament to be able to do so. But Harry I don't believe, has made any vocal point of siding either Israel or Palestine. And so therefore, that would not fall into the equation of the threats that potentially he's exposed to.
Will Geddes, their international security specialist, talking about the consequences of that ruling for Prince Harry today. One big figure that stuck out from that, £5 million a year is the kind of number that Harry will be paying for the type of security that he needs. And of course, he brings that security with him from the States, but it certainly is a lot. So you need to sell a lot of books, don't you?